everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to Mystical Munchies featuring the World of Warcraft New Flavors of Azeroth cookbook. The Nomergon nuggets were actually pretty good last week, so now we're on to the dessert, Bellara's Nutterbar. First up, let's tell the story, and this one finds us in Orgrimmar. You can find these tasty bars in the major capitals, where they're traditionally a favorite treat around Hallows End, aka Halloween for those of you who aren't initiated in World of Warcraft lore. With a chewy, nutty base and rich topping of chocolate, they are sought after by children and adults alike. Well, we'll find out how sought after they are, because we're going to be making them. Anyway, the ingredients are waiting for us at the table, so let's move in that direction. You'll probably hear the oven chirping in the background. We won't need it for this recipe. To make this recipe, though, what we will need is 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and we need more for the pan, 4 cups of puffed rice cereal, 2 cups of crushed pretzel pieces, 10 ounces of miniature marshmallows, 3/4 of a cup of peanut butter, and 8 ounces of semisweet chocolate chips. Let's move into the kitchen and start putting this recipe together. The first thing we're going to do involves the pan that we're using. So I've got a 9x13 pan here. They say to use a 9 or 10 inch square with tall sides. I'm going to go with a 9x13. We're going to take more of the butter. You're supposed to butter a piece of aluminum foil with it, but since I've still got most of the wrapper from the stick of butter I'm using for the main part of the recipe, I'm just going to butter this pan. Making sure we butter the sides here. Oop. Okay. I think that's pretty well buttered, so we can put that to the side. I'm going to go ahead and bag this. I'll bag this up. I don't know if I'm going to use it again this weekend. We'll see. Alright, I'm going to dip my hands in my dishwater real quick. Good thing I keep that just to give my hands a quick rinse. Actually, I'm going to take my Apple Watch off as well as usual. Then we're going to grab a heatproof bowl. And in here, I'm going to get a wooden spoon out because we will be combining the pretzel pieces and the puffed rice. So first up, we've got our crushed pretzel pieces. And then that can go in the dishwater. And our puffed rice cereal. We need 4 cups of the puffed rice cereal. Okay, that's a little bit more than 2, but that'll do. And the rest of it. Okay. That can also go in the dishwater. Then we'll give this a quick stir. You know, it's funny, this was a 4-quart mixing bowl I found. When I was talking with my mom about it last night, trying to find something, she wasn't sure if I needed a 4-quart that big, if I needed a mixing bowl that big. Turned out apparently I did from the looks of it, so I'm glad this was the only one I was able to find at the grocery store. But that should be enough of combining the pretzel pieces. We've still got some whole pretzels in here. I'll see if I can break those up a little bit. Okay. Alright, now we can put that aside and we'll move into the next step of the recipe, which will take us over to the stove. Once again, as I mentioned, the oven may start chirping, but no need to pay attention to that. So now we've got a medium saucepan over medium heat, and that's where we're going to melt our 3 tablespoons of butter in, which I've got right here. Feels like it's had a little bit of time to soften at room temperature, so this hopefully should be easier to melt. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to get succeeding steps of the recipe ready. Yeah, that should be big enough. Okay. So yes, that butter is actually melting pretty quickly, which I want here. So that's actually melting pretty quickly. So we're going to wait for that to melt in real time. There's actually a few steps here that are pretty important to the recipe. So we're going to be doing most of this we're going to do most of this in real time. And you guys know, if you're a regular on Mystical Munchies, you know that tends to be my philosophy on these recipes. If there's something important that I need to do, if there's something particularly important to a recipe, we'll usually watch it in real time. Now granted, butter melting isn't exactly an important step that needs to be done in real time, but that's the other part of the philosophy, is if there's something that needs to happen quickly, then we do that in real time as well. I'm also just working on cleaning up the kitchen a little bit, washing up some of these dishes, as I always like to keep a batch of dishwater ready while I'm filming Mystical Munchies. Okay, looks like the butter's just about melted. Okay. Lightly butter a piece of aluminum foil. Okay, so actually we do need to put some aluminum foil inside. Okay. So we buttered the pan, we want the aluminum foil on the inside. Actually, we want the butter on the inside of that. And I was just taking care of that off camera, in case you're wondering what the rustling was. Now that the butter's melted, now we're going to take our marshmallows and we're going to pour them in. And we want to stir this. What do we want to do with this? I think we want to stir until the marshmallows have completely melted. Okay. And once again, we're going to watch the marshmallows melt in real time, because there's another step that needs to happen almost immediately, which I'm going to prepare the first part of it while the marshmallows are melting. Okay. Which, fortunately for us, the marshmallows are melting pretty quickly. Okay. So I think we've got the marshmallow completely melted at this point. So now what we want to do is now we want to add the peanut butter in. We've got our 3/4. We're going to be pulling our 3/4 of a cup of peanut butter. That's one. That's not wanting to come out. There we have the scraper for that. 2. And 3, because we need 3/4 of a cup of peanut butter. There we are. Okay. Those can go toward the dishes. The peanut butter can go back up. And then we want to continue to stir this until the whole mixture is smooth, and then we're going to remove that from the heat. So yes, we are going to watch the stir in real time as well. We're making sure this all smooths out. And we're trying to get this smooth, which it looks like it's starting to smooth out, even if being a little bit on the nutty side, which is probably to be expected. I am going to get a spatula ready though, so I'll have an easier time when it comes time to scrape this out. But I think at this point, we look to be pretty much all good here. So I'm actually going to take this off the heat. Might be a little bit early for it to come off, but we'll find out soon enough. So we'll put that off to the side. And then we're going to actually bring the dry mix back in shot, and we're going to move over to the counter. Had some minor technical difficulties, but hopefully everything should be fine here. So now what we want to do is now we want to take the marshmallow mixture over the bowl of dry ingredients, and we're going to stir this together gently but quickly. until the dry ingredients are evenly coated. So I'm going to get this spoon out of the bowl for the time being. I had a spatula ready for this, but it doesn't look like I'm going to need it. Okay. So we'll send all of this toward the dishes, and now we're going to start stirring the dry ingredients. Whoa, whoa! Hold on. Let's get some of these dry ingredients back in the bowl. There we are. Easy does it. Ah. I think I was expecting this to come out a little bit smoother. Maybe I was expecting the peanut butter and marshmallow mixture to turn into a bit less of a clump than it turned into. And I think this is why it needed to be quickly but gently, because it was going to clump up on me like this. And I have a feeling that the time it took me to get my technical details sorted out, namely my battery crapping out on me and nothing flat for some reason, was going to start causing problems here. Yeah. And I've still got dry pieces coming. Still got dry spots coming out. But I think that's probably about as mixed up as it's going to get. It definitely clumped up on me, probably from the slight delay I had to do in dealing with my technical details. So we want to turn this out into our prepared pan that I've now since lined with aluminum foil. That is most definitely not an even coat, but it's as even as it's going to get. So now I'm going to use the spoon to press everything down. You can either use lightly buttered hands or a spoon, which, like I said, I'm using a spoon for this. So we're going to work on pressing this down. Okay. So we'll continue pressing this down as best we can. I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to put this to the side and we'll work on the chocolate topping next. The next step of the recipe brings us over to the microwave, a rare sight on Mystical Munchies, but sometimes an important one. In this case, we're going to take the semi-sweet chocolate chips and we're going to melt them into our topping. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to pour in some of the chocolate chips, and we are going to watch this in real time. So we're going to microwave these in 30-second bursts, stirring between each one until everything's completely melted, and then we'll bring the rest in. So I'll apologize in advance for the sound of the microwave beeping, but it's going to be happening quite a few times as we're going to watch it in real time. So let's start. Okay. I do have a hot pad here ready to go. Okay, actually I could probably just pour all of them in. I think I'm going to do that. That'll probably make things easier. Let me get another spatula. Actually, I can just use the one I had ready for the marshmallow mixture because I ended up not needing it for the marshmallow mixture. So I'll just use it here instead. Okay. Alrighty then. We'll hit it again. I might only need to hit it with one or two more bursts to make sure all of the chocolate gets melted. Okay. Pull it out again, give it a quick stir. Actually, that's pretty much melted from the looks of it. Yeah, actually that's where I wanted to be. So, with that done, now we're going to come back over to the counter. And I'll bring the bars themselves in shot. And actually I'm going to need a hot pad for this most likely because now we're going to flip. Because now we're going to spread the chocolate over the bar. Let's see if I can scrape this off. I had a little bit of a klutzy moment here. Alright, hang on. We're going to do a little impromptu cleanup job here. Because I had my spoon I was using flip into the chocolate, which as you can probably imagine didn't end too well. But now that I no longer need that, the spoon can go into the dishes. And now we'll start pouring in the chocolate. So I'll work on spreading that in an even layer. trying to do this without I'm trying to do this without A, burning my hand, and B, dropping the bowl in. Also C, apparently, spilling the bars themselves everywhere. Let me grab another spatula, see if I have any better luck using that to start spreading chocolate around. Okay, that seems like it's helping at least a little bit. Unfortunately, I'm not able to cover the whole thing, as you can probably see. I'm doing the best I can, though. But I think that's probably about as good as it's going to get here. So now we're going to let that sit for an hour and let the chocolate cool. We'll come back to this in about an hour. Here's our first look at the bars themselves. I threw them in the fridge as well to give them some extra time to cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the foil out. I said I'm going to, there we go. I was going to say, I said I'm going to lift the foil out. And it's still going to crumble in places. Unfortunately, I'm not completely surprised about that. Actually, let me see if I can get this onto a cutting board. Oh, it's coming out there. There we go. Okay, we'll get that out of the way. Then I'm going to cut this up. Again, it's still crumbly in places. But then I'm going to head over, we'll get one of these plated up, and we'll head over to my desk for the taste test. I've got one of the bars right here. One thing I knew as I was cutting this up was this is not something I'm going to bring into work. It was very much crumbling as I cut it, and I think you guys could probably sense it as I was working on mixing everything up, that it wasn't going to mix as well as I would like to be able to bring it into work. But let's give this a taste and see what I think. This does definitely have a sweet and salty taste that I like. And again, I would be a lot happier with it if the bars actually held together a bit better. And I think some of that was from the delay I had in problems with the battery on my camera in trying to get that changed out. I think the marshmallow mixture started to solidify just enough that working with it in the pan, working with it in the bowl is actually fairly difficult. But that is another episode of Mystical Munchies in the books, and another month of recipes in the books. We'll be in a new cookbook next week, but we'll have more on that during Pinot with Phoenix on Monday. As for what else is coming up on the channel, tomorrow morning we're slated to play APA Golf, and Wednesday we'll be starting the 2009-10 hockey season replay with our first game of Inside the Crease Hockey. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.